The Great Smoky Mountains look peaceful. Fog rolling over ancient ridgelines, wildflowers along the trail, a creek running clear and cold. It is the most visited national park in the United States, drawing more than 12 million people every single year. But underneath that postcard scenery is a landscape that has been quietly and permanently changed. Some of the animals sharing these trails with you were never supposed to be part of this ecosystem at all. Others vanished from these mountains generations ago and have only recently returned. And a few have simply grown so numerous, so bold, and so close to hiking trails and campgrounds that longtime rangers say the balance of the forest has shifted. Today we are counting down 15 animals living in and around the Great Smoky Mountains that most visitors never expect to encounter. From invasive tusked mammals to venomous natives to a predator that vanished from the east for over a century. Stick around, because the number one spot is an animal that has actually killed people inside this park. And its story might change how you look at your next hike. Before we get into the list, if you are enjoying this kind of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps this channel keep making videos like this one. And I would love to know, drop a comment and tell me what part of the world you are watching from right now. Alright, let's get into it. Starting at number 15, the European hornet. This is not a native insect. It was brought to North America by European settlers back in the 1800s, and it has since spread across the eastern United States, including the forests surrounding the Smokies. European hornets are considerably larger than the wasps most Americans grow up with queens reaching over 1.5 inches in length, and workers built with heavy amber and black bodies that make them look almost too big to fly. Unlike honeybees, they can sting multiple times without dying, and they are notorious for being active after dark, drawn to porch lights and campground lanterns long after most other stinging insects have settled down for the night. A single sting is painful but rarely dangerous on its own, delivering a sharper, longer-lasting burn than a typical wasp sting. The real risk comes from nest defense. European hornets build large paper nests, often hidden inside hollow trees or wall cavities, and a disturbed colony can send dozens of workers after whoever gets too close, sometimes pursuing a target for a surprising distance. For people with insect allergies, that kind of multi-sting encounter can turn into a medical emergency fast. And it is one more reminder that not everything buzzing around a Smoky Mountain campsite belongs there. Number 14 takes us into much smaller and arguably scarier territory, the Asian longhorned tick. This tick was first confirmed in the United States in 2017 and has since been documented across a growing list of eastern states, including Tennessee. What makes it different from native ticks is reproduction. Female Asian longhorn ticks can clone themselves without mating, which means a single tick can produce an entire infestation on its own, sometimes covering an animal or a stretch of pasture in thousands of individuals within a single season. In parts of Asia and Australia, this species has been linked to a dangerous bleeding disorder in livestock from sheer blood loss after mass feeding, essentially draining animals through sheer numbers rather than any single dramatic bite. In the United States, researchers are still tracking its full disease-carrying potential, but its rapid spread through Appalachian forest and farmland has state agriculture and health departments watching closely, running surveillance programs to map exactly how far it has traveled. It is a tiny hitchhiker, but its numbers make it a genuine concern for hikers brushing through tall grass along Smoky Mountain trails, where a single pass through brush can pick up far more than anyone would expect. At number 13, we stay in tick territory with the Lone Star tick, named for the single white spot on the back of the adult female. This one is technically native to the southeastern United States, but its range has been expanding northward and into higher elevations in recent decades, putting more hikers in contact with it than ever before, including areas of the park that used to be considered too cool or too high for it to thrive. The Lone Star tick is aggressive. It will actively pursue movement and body heat rather than waiting passively like some other species, crossing open ground toward a host instead of sitting still on a blade of grass. Its bite has been linked to alpha-gal syndrome, a strange and increasingly documented condition where a tick bite triggers a lifelong allergy to red meat, sometimes appearing hours after a meal and catching people completely off guard the first time it happens. For a growing number of people in Tennessee and North Carolina, one afternoon on a Smoky Mountain trail has meant giving up burgers and steak for the rest of their lives. Number 12 brings us to the water, the common snapping turtle. These reptiles are native to the streams, ponds, and rivers throughout the park, and they can grow to well over 35 pounds, with some individuals documented far heavier. Their shells often covered in algae that make them nearly invisible against a muddy creek bottom. Snapping turtles have powerful hooked jaws capable of exerting serious bite force, and unlike most turtles, they are not shy about defending themselves on land, where they cannot fully retreat into their shell and instead rely on a fast striking neck to keep threats away. Most encounters happen when people are wading in creeks or trying to help a turtle cross a trail, not realizing how fast that neck can strike, often mistaking a calm, motionless turtle for one that has no interest in defending itself. Documented bites have caused serious lacerations and even lost fingers in extreme cases. Wildlife officials consistently remind visitors that the safest move around a snapping turtle is simple distance, and if one truly needs to be moved, using something other than bare hands. At number 11, we move into the leaf litter with the black widow spider. This species is native throughout Tennessee and North Carolina, including the lower elevations around the Smokies, typically found in woodpiles, stone walls, and undisturbed debris where it can build its irregular, tangled web in peace. The female black widow is easily identified by her glossy black body and red hourglass marking on the underside of her abdomen, and she carries a neurotoxic venom that is medically significant, causing intense muscle cramping, sweating, and pain that can last for days after a bite. Fatalities are now extremely rare thanks to modern anti-venom and medical care. But bites are still recorded every year in the region, usually when someone reaches into a woodpile, an old shed, or a stack of stones without looking first, disturbing a web tucked into a dark corner. Number 10 is a close cousin in reputation, the brown recluse spider. Tennessee sits well within the brown recluse's native range, and it has long been documented in and around structures near the park, including outbuildings, cabins, and storage areas where it prefers quiet, undisturbed corners over open space. Unlike the black widow, its venom is not neurotoxic but necrotic, meaning it can, in a small percentage of bites, cause tissue damage around the bite site that requires medical treatment and, in rare cases, weeks of healing. Most bites are minor and heal without incident, sometimes going unnoticed until well after the fact. But the brown recluse's reputation is well earned in this part of the country, and its preference for quiet, undisturbed spaces means most people never see one before they feel it, often only realizing what happened after a doctor makes the diagnosis. At number 9, we move to a predator whose very existence is a product of recent history, the eastern coyote, sometimes called the coy wolf. Genetic studies have confirmed that coyotes moving into the Appalachians over the last century picked up wolf and even domestic dog Dina along the way, producing an animal noticeably larger and heavier than the coyotes of the American West. with some researchers estimating the average eastern coyote carries a meaningful percentage of wolf ancestry inherited from encounters generations ago in the Great Lakes region. Some eastern coyotes have been documented at over 50 pounds, well above typical western coyote weights, and built with a heavier skull and jaw suited to taking down larger prey. They are opportunistic, adaptable, and now firmly established throughout the Smoky Mountains region, filling a predator role that the extirpation of red wolves left open generations ago. Direct attacks on people are rare, but coyotes have been documented preying on pets in communities bordering the park, and wildlife officials warn that habituation to human food sources is an increasing problem as development continues to push closer to the park boundary. Number 8 is the bobcat, a native wildcat that most visitors will never lay eyes on despite the park having a healthy population. Bobcats are elusive by nature, solitary, and largely nocturnal, weighing up to about 35 pounds with powerful hind legs built for ambush hunting and a burst of speed most people would never expect from an animal that size. Under normal circumstances, they go out of their way to avoid humans entirely, often detecting hikers on a trail long before those hikers ever notice them. The danger comes almost exclusively from disease. Rabies can dramatically alter a bobcat's behavior, stripping away its natural caution, and documented cases across the southeastern United States have included rabid bobcats acting aggressively toward people and even pets, in stark contrast to their usual shy behavior. It is a rare event, but it is exactly the kind of unpredictable encounter that makes wildlife officials urge extreme caution around any wild animal behaving strangely, especially one approaching rather than fleeing. If you are finding this list surprising so far, go ahead and hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Because the 7 animals still to come are significantly more dangerous than anything we have covered yet. Number 7 takes us to the most commonly encountered venomous snake in the entire eastern United States, the copperhead. These snakes are native throughout the Smokies, and their camouflage, a pattern of hourglass-shaped bands over a coppery tan body, makes them almost invisible against dry leaves and forest floor, especially in the dappled light common along wooded trails. Copperheads account for more venomous snake bites in the United States than any other species, largely because they tend to freeze and rely on camouflage rather than fleeing when a person walks by, which means people frequently step near or on them without ever seeing them, sometimes only realizing what happened when they feel the strike. Their venom is rarely fatal to healthy adults with prompt treatment, but it causes significant pain, swelling, and tissue damage, and bites are recorded in and around the park nearly every season, particularly in late summer and early fall when the snakes are most active. Number 6 is the timber rattlesnake, the largest venomous snake found in the Great Smoky Mountains, with some individuals reaching over 4 feet in length and a girth that surprises people expecting something closer to a garden snake. Unlike the copperhead, timber rattlesnakes are found more often at higher, rockier elevations, often basking near ledges and outcrops along popular ridge trails where the sun-warmed stone makes an ideal resting spot. Their rattle serves as a warning system, a distinct dry buzz meant to give intruders a chance to back away. But that warning only works if hikers are listening, and their coloration can blend seamlessly with rock and leaf debris. Bites are far less common than copperhead bites simply because timber rattlesnakes are less numerous and more likely to give warning. But their venom is considerably more potent, and documented bites in the region have required extensive anti-venom treatment and hospitalization. At number 5, we return to the coyote's ancestral rival story with a twist. The coyote's very presence in the Smokies is itself the anomaly. For most of recorded history, coyotes were a species of the open plains and deserts of the American West, not the deep forests of southern Appalachia. Following the extermination of red wolves and other large predators across the eastern United States in the 1800s and early 1900s, coyotes expanded eastward across the 20th century, moving through the Midwest and the Great Lakes region before finally arriving in Tennessee and North Carolina in meaningful numbers only within living memory. Today, they are firmly established, filling the ecological role of an apex predator that this landscape had not seen in generations, hunting deer fawns, rodents, and carrion throughout the park in a role nature never originally assigned them here, and reshaping the balance between predator and prey in ways biologists are still studying. Number 4 brings us to a genuine reintroduction success story with real teeth behind it: elk. Elk were once native to the southern Appalachians, but were hunted to extirpation in the region by the mid-1700s, disappearing from these mountains entirely as settlement pushed westward. They were completely absent from these mountains for roughly 2 centuries until the National Park Service reintroduced a founding herd into the Cataloochee Valley beginning in 2001. Bringing animals in from other established herds to rebuild a population from scratch. The population has grown steadily since, and today visitors regularly spot elk grazing in open valleys, often gathering in small herds near dawn and dusk. Bulls can weigh up to 700 pounds and carry antlers spanning several feet across, a rack heavy enough to seriously injure anyone caught in its path. During the fall rutting season, bulls become highly aggressive, bugling, charging, and defending territory. And park rangers have documented numerous close calls with visitors who approached too closely for photographs, mistaking a calm-looking animal for one that would tolerate a close approach. An animal that large, moving at speed, does not need aggression to be dangerous. Simple unpredictability is enough. At number 3, we arrive at one of the most destructive and genuinely invasive species on this entire list: the feral hog, also called European wild boar. These animals trace back to a notorious release on Hooper Bald, North Carolina, in 1912, when boars imported for hunting escaped captivity and began breeding with existing feral pig populations descended from earlier domestic stock. Their descendants have thrived throughout the southern Appalachians ever since, adapting readily to nearly every habitat the mountains offer. Adult boars can weigh well over 200 pounds, with some documented individuals significantly heavier, and they carry sharp tusks used both for foraging and defense, capable of inflicting deep gashes when the animal feels cornered. Unlike most wildlife in the park, feral hogs are aggressive when cornered or protecting piglets, and documented attacks on hikers and hunters exist throughout the region. Beyond the direct danger, their rooting behavior tears up acres of forest floor every year, destroying native plant life and stream banks, which is exactly why the National Park Service runs an active, ongoing removal program specifically targeting this species, trapping and removing hundreds of animals annually in an effort to limit the ecological damage. Number 2 is an animal that officially is not supposed to be here at all anymore. The eastern cougar was declared extinct by wildlife officials, its last confirmed populations wiped out across the Appalachians generations ago through habitat loss and organized hunting campaigns. And yet, individual mountain lions continue to turn up in the eastern United States, confirmed through DNA testing and trail camera footage, almost always traced back to young males dispersing thousands of miles from established Western populations, including well-documented cases as far east as Connecticut, where a cougar struck by a vehicle in 2011 was genetically traced all the way back to the Black Hills of South Dakota. Wildlife agencies in Tennessee and North Carolina do not recognize a breeding population in or around the Smokies, and most reported sightings near the park remain unconfirmed, often turning out to be bobcats or large domestic cats upon closer investigation. But the confirmed transient cougars found elsewhere in the east prove that a 150-pound apex predator, capable of taking down deer with ease, can and occasionally does pass silently through mountains where officials insist it no longer belongs. And that brings us to number 1, the animal responsible for more confirmed dangerous encounters inside the Great Smoky Mountains National Park than anything else on this list. The American black bear. This one might surprise you, because black bears are entirely native here, and in many ways they are the symbol of the park itself, appearing on everything from road signs to souvenir shops in the surrounding towns. But few visitors grasp just how many bears actually share these mountains with them. Researchers estimate the population inside the park at somewhere around 1,900 bears, one of the densest concentrations of black bears found anywhere in North America, meaning an average of roughly 2 bears for every square mile of parkland, far more than most hikers would ever guess while walking a quiet trail. Adult males can weigh up to 600 pounds in the fall when they are aggressively feeding to prepare for winter, sometimes consuming an enormous number of calories a day in search of fat reserves. The overwhelming majority of the millions of annual visitors never have a negative encounter, and black bears generally avoid confrontation, preferring to retreat rather than engage. But the record is real. In May of 2000, a black bear was responsible for a fatal attack on a hiker in the park, a rare and widely documented event that shook the wildlife community and led to renewed research into bear behavior around trails and food storage. It remains one of only a small number of confirmed fatal black bear attacks in the park's recorded history. And it stands as a sober reminder that the most iconic animal in the Smokies, an animal most visitors feel completely safe around, is also the one that has proven on rare occasion capable of the deadliest outcome of anything on this entire list. So there you have it, 15 animals sharing the Great Smoky Mountains that most visitors never expect. From invasive hornets and hitchhiking ticks all the way to a reintroduced elk herd, an entire population of animals that historically was not supposed to be part of this landscape. And finally, the park's own iconic, native, but genuinely formidable black bear population. Of course, a list like this could easily have gone in other directions. Some of you are probably already thinking about animals we left off. Maybe a particular snake. Maybe the sheer number of deer-related incidents each year. Or maybe something else entirely that you have personally encountered on a trail. Drop a comment and let us know what you would have included, or how you would rank this list differently. We genuinely love reading your take on these, and it often shapes what we cover next. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and we will see you in the next one.